Hi, how are you doing today? We are going to be talking about the competition. And I know that a lot of other YouTubers, and maybe even I've done this from time to time, just poo-poo the competition. You know, the competition is coming. Really? What competition? Let's talk about it seriously today because it will impact the future of Tesla. It will impact the future of the world. And I think we need to really get honest and serious about it. This is Randy Kirk. If this content is helpful to you, you know what to do. And please join Patreon. I think you're going to enjoy what we're doing there. Sorry about my voice a little bit this morning, a little scratchy, still fighting the, the famous COVID virus, but we'll get over it. All right. So what I'm going to do is we're going to have a series of videos. I would say there will probably be as many as 20, maybe even more. And we are going to look at every single car company that's out there. I'm sorry, that's not true. All of the major potential and current competitors. We're going to look at them in terms of their capabilities right now in EVs, what their statements are with regard to their future in EVs, what we think about those statements, whether we think they're realistic or what their history has been in terms of making statements and then keeping them. We're going to look at who the winners and who the losers are going to be. We'll look at some of the startups. We will certainly take a hard look at BYD, NIO, and others to see where they're going to fit into the future in terms of the competition. I'm going to do a ton of this with Lars Strandritter, the co-author of the Elon Musk mission. He is also, of course, the famous host of Best in Tesla, a very, very successful YouTube channel. And so he will be joining me, and we're going to tackle each one of these companies and look at them in depth. Now, why does this matter to you? Some people are like, are you kidding? Tesla's so far ahead of the competition. What's the issue? Don't even have to think about them. You know, it's better to just think about your own product and go forward without really contemplating what the competition is doing. And by the way, I have followed that advice during my career as well. I look at the competition. I'm interested in what they're doing. Sometimes they're doing something smart, and I want to know about it. But this is a much larger playground, if you will, than what I've been involved in my life. It's one of the largest playgrounds that there is, and that's the automotive industry. And it's filled with large and medium-sized and small companies that are fighting over niches and trying to decide what pricing and what features and benefits each of these automobiles are going to have. And as such, I think that we need to look at Elon Musk's definition of the competition. And then we need to look at a broader definition of the competition. Let's start with who Elon Musk says the competition is. Write into the comment right now so that you get it right before I say it. Okay, the competition is ICE vehicles, not the other folks that are making BEVs. Competition is ICE vehicles and hybrid vehicles. We need to eliminate those off the face of the planet. We're not interested in those folks continuing to be able to produce after, let's say, 2027, 2028. So we want those completely eliminated. So they are the major competition. So when you see Tesla raise the price this week of the S and the X, and every headline that you read says, oh, it's because they need to get more market share from who? Oh, from the other luxury BEV makers. No, that's not what's really going on. Yes, there needs to be a sifting out. There needs to be the competitive BEV makers need to have their feet held to the fire to make compelling products at compelling prices. And Tesla is going to do that. The quality of their products, the fact that they're the most compelling products at the most compelling prices is going to hold their Volkswagen and you know, go down the list, Stellantis and Toyota and all these folks, General Motors and Ford. It's going to hold all these folks to account in order to make cars that are good enough to compete with Tesla. So that is important, and it's part of the deal. And yes, to the extent that they lower a price on any one of the Tesla vehicles, it could be a signal or a go-to-war effort against one of the competitive BEVs. But the bigger thing would be to eliminate the ICE car in that category. This is the thing I think that Mercedes and BMW and Audi and the rest are worried about. They're not worried so much about whether or not they're going to be able to compete with BEVs. They're worried about how long they can continue to sell ICE cars when the BEVs are now coming in from Tesla that are beating the heck out of their prices on a value for value basis, and certainly for a value over time basis. So that's who the competition is. I can't say this loudly enough or often enough that the ICE cars are the competition, according to Elon. He recognizes, and you should recognize, and I recognize, we need to keep it in mind that we're going to need 50 million cars from other producers by 2027 if we're going to kill ICE. Tesla is likely to be at around 13 million, 15 million by that time. They are not going to be able to make 65, 70 million to completely eliminate all ICE cars by that time. They're going to need 50 million from other folks, maybe more, 55 million per year, quality cars, again, compelling automobiles, compelling BEVs at compelling prices in order to eliminate ICE from the face of the earth. So that is a critical thing that we need to know going forward. So who are those guys going to be? Which are the ones that are going to win? Is the Ford 150 a winner? Is it going to make it? Is the Lightning, of course? Are some of these new Mercedes and some of these new Kias, of course, BYD? Which ones are going to make it? Which ones aren't going to make it? Are they going to be so top heavy? Are they going to have so many problems with the transition because they're going to be writing off massive amounts of existing manufacturing accoutrement, molds and lines and robots and everything else they're going to have to write off? Is that going to be such a heavy burden on some of these companies they're going to go out of business? That's possible. Are they going to be trying to stretch their time in the ICE business longer than they should and not put as much effort into BEVs as they should be, like Toyota? That's possible. So this is the key here. You're going to want to subscribe. You're going to want to push the notification button because you're going to want to see each of these episodes. We're going to do maybe one a day on average. So one day we'll go and we'll talk about Toyota. Another day we'll talk about Volkswagen. Another day we'll talk about Stellantis and Geely and right down the list, General Motors and Ford. And we'll talk about these companies and we'll talk about, again, I'm kind of repeating myself, but we'll talk about what is it that they are saying that they're going to do? What are they already doing? And what's the credibility on both? Are the products that they're making now credible? Can they be updated to be credible? Are there products that they're talking about making in the future that are credible and look like they might be competitive and could be something that would be a useful product in the market? And what is their track record? If they've said in the past, this is what we're going to do with regard to BEV, and then a year or two goes past and they haven't done anything, or they've done way less than expected, how do we look at that in terms of expectations about the future? So we're going to look at those companies one at a time because we need some winners. We know that BYD is probably one of the winners. I would say that Kia is probably one of the winners. Hyundai and Kia. I think they're probably one of the winners. Believe it or not, Stellantis might be one of the winners. Volkswagen is ahead in a lot of places, but I'm not sure they're going to be. And Lars is going to be great at helping us to look at Volkswagen close up and personal with their new leadership and with the ownership so heavily involved. The union is so heavily involved in their ownership. So why do you want to know this stuff? Okay, number one, you want to know it as an investor. There may be, we're sure a lot of us are all in on Tesla or almost all in on Tesla with a little bit over here and a little bit over there, but there may be some stocks that you might want to invest in terms of the BEV market in addition to Tesla. Some of these winners might be a place that you want to diversify off into those stocks. I'm not a stock and I'm not an investment advisor, but I can certainly give you some direction with regard to how I see and how Lars sees some of these companies and whether they're going to succeed or not, whether they're going to be one of the winners. Number two, how does it affect Tesla? So obviously we think Tesla's a generation ahead. Ford just said, Toyota just said, they're a generation ahead. The Model Y is a work of art under the skin. These are wonderful things to say. But when you are in the lead and you're the pioneer, it is not that hard for people to come in and reverse engineer you. And maybe it's a year later or 2 years later, they're reverse engineering you and they've got a credible product out there. And then there's going to be there's always somebody that is going to be disrupting the disruptor. Now, that may not happen. We could go 10 years without anybody disrupting the disruptor, but some new battery technology could come along that could be ramped quickly. Some new technology in terms of the way the automobile is built, designed, manufactured, that would be even slicker than what we just saw on Investor Day. Unlikely, but maybe. So some of this, as we look at these competitors, who are the competitors that are likely to be able to be actually in Tesla's face, in the future as we get into 2025, 2026, when there's millions of cars being made by all of these different providers? Which one of those might we pay attention to in terms of maybe keeping Tesla from being able to hit their numbers? Tesla's goal, 50% per year growth starting from 2000, would put them at a little bit under 1.8 million this year. That would be 2.7 million next year. I just did this a minute. 4 million in 2025, 6 million in 2026, 9 million in 2027, 13 something in 2028. So that's what they want to do. That's the ramp that they're on at 50% per year growth. And that is a ramp that we would look for the industry to be on as well. They're at about 10% right now. According to Tony Seba, the 10% level is where you start the S. That's where the S curve starts, is at the 10% level. And it should take 6 to 7 years from the time that you hit the beginning of the 10%, when you hit the beginning of the bottom of the S curve, to get to 100% or near 100%. So again, you could do the math in your head. We go from 10% to 15% next year, 15 to 22.5%, 22.5% to 33, 34%, 34 to 50, 50 to 75, and then you're all the way there. So that 50% per year compound growth each year, it's a lot easier for the industry to do that than it is for a single company to maintain those levels of growth, because you have all these different companies coming in from all these different ways. You might have a company that does 0 this year and does 100,000 cars the next year, or a company that does 100,000 cars this year and does 1 million next year. So they're not growing at 50%, but they might have a spurt for 1 year, and you have a spurt coming in this way and a spurt coming in that way. And that's how you see the overall industry grow in this S curve shape at 50% per year. So that's what we're going to be looking at. This is critical stuff. This is more important than the day-to-day stuff of whether, FSD is ready to go next Thursday or 7 months from Thursday, or whether the new hardware 4 is now on cars and we're taking snapshots of it. Yeah, that stuff all matters, and it's interesting and it's fun to geek out on it. But what really matters is, how does this play out, this S curve of production worldwide and these competitors, and which ones are the winners, which ones are the losers, and how does it impact Tesla? So once again, hit subscribe and notify if you'd like to join Lars and I as we spend 15 to 20 minutes a day looking into these various companies and seeing out who's going to be the winners and who are going to be the losers. This has been great talking to you today.